perfect time of year to get a new horror game, or like a sort of horror game. There's a lot to talk about with this one. I've been playing Scorn, and it is a very interesting game. It's one that I'm going to be very critical of. There's a lot of issues with this game, but I think if you are like a certain type of person, and if you've been looking forward to this game, or if you're interested in it for its very unique things, then ultimately I still think it's probably worth checking out. And this is one of those videos where it's like my critical brain is seeing so many things with the game that I'm not really into, some things I'm not really jiving with, but then ultimately once I played through it and stewed on it and played through it again, I kind of realized that there's a lot more to it that I like. It's one of those things where it's kind of like critical brain versus just like gut feeling. And Scorn is at least cool. Now, I say it's worth checking out if you're into this type of thing because you could tell on screen here, that specific type of thing is the art style, the vibe, the atmosphere here. It is very heavily and ambitiously inspired by Swiss artist H.R. Giger and Polish artist Zdzisław Beksiński. I hope I got that right. Contemporary artists from the 20th century that this game definitely wears on its sleeve. Specifically, H.R. Giger, for those who don't know, you probably heard this a million times before by now, but his art and some of his works set up the vibe, set up the looks specifically for xenomorphs, you know, from Alien. That whole look. His style is very like bio-organic, like flesh meets machine types of weird, gross stuff. And then Beksiński's art has similar concept, but is a little bit more, dare I say, like artsy-fartsy, a little bit more abstract, but some interesting emotions behind it. So for a game to kind of combine those two styles and really create this weird world is something that I think is absolutely worth celebrating. The problem is that it's in a very simple game. Now, it's simple in some good ways, but it's also simple in some not so great ways. Let me just get it right off the bat. The game is criminally short. I think it was like 5 hours or something like that, and I was a little let down when I finished it, specifically not just because of the length, but because it was one of those games where it feels like it was just getting going, and then it ends. And I'm like, no, wait, I want more. So I guess it's not necessarily like the worst problem in the world, but it also had some combat in it that just really didn't quite work for me. Now, what is cool about it is that it's like a little bit survival horror-y, where ammo is extremely limited. So you have to worry about your shots for every single enemy encounter, and maybe even use the one weapon that has infinite ammo, kind of like the knife in Resident Evil where you spam it to save bullets. Like, I like that approach, that survival horror feel, but the problem is that there wasn't a lot of it, and it just kind of felt half-baked because the enemy encounters were incredibly lame, from the way they went down to the enemy types themselves. I actually think that was probably the game's biggest missed potential, is that the fact that they built up all this incredible, gross, eerie stuff, and the enemies you face off against are like a very small handful, and they really were nowhere near as inspiring as the art and the rest of the game's design. Of course, that's probably going to be pretty subjective. Some people are going to like some of the creatures, but I just didn't really feel too grossed out by them, or scared by them, or threatened by them, like anything really. But that and some frustrating checkpoints really just, I wasn't into it. But it's a small part of the game. The main part of the game, as you could probably see from the gameplay here, is wandering around and just figuring out how to get through the game. It is extremely vibes based. It is all about atmosphere. I did have a lot of fun playing through this game with headphones on, with the lights turned down. It's not scary. Like, it's unsettling, yes, but it's not really a scary game by any means. But it's absolutely like a world you want to just totally get lost in. Like, the visual effects, everything going on here really hits. The soundscape, the sound designs they have here are really damn good. You are in an incredibly eerie world. Basically, the game just kind of throws you into it. You wake up and you play as this like guy. I don't even want to call. He's like that's what he is. He's a crusty dude. So like, you're this weird, gross, dead guy. I don't even know what his problem is or her problem is. And you're essentially stumbling through this gross world, not really with an objective or to really achieve anything. You're just kind of going through it. There's basically no messages on screen, tutorials, anything like that. So I think the game is really impressive for how you kind of intuitively figure things out. You slowly start to figure out the game's language, the design's language, how doors open, how certain puzzles work, how weapons work, like how healing works. All of that is just stuff you kind of have to wing it and figure it out as you go. And that I liked. Now, the one thing is that the game does rely heavily on a couple of puzzles, and some of the puzzles are bullshit. And I mean that like with respect. Like they're hard. They're very, very challenging. I am also more of a puzzle gamer where I'm more of like a Resident Evil guy. Put me in a haunted house with a bunch of weird keys shaped like things, and I'm good at figuring out mysteries and where things go and using clues. But when it comes to tactile puzzles, like a Rubik's Cube or moving things and thinking 2 steps ahead, I'm not good with those puzzles, and this game has a lot of them. So I think a lot of your play length is gonna vary on how much you get stuck. But even kind of getting pissed off at some of the puzzles, I still like respected that that's what the game was. Like, it's kind of like, what if, say, The Witness or even the classic Myst was super gross and had some guns in it sometimes. Like, I actually think that's a pretty good selling point. But that's, again, what I was saying before, where you have to be a very specific type of player. These puzzles are pretty old school. This game is extremely slow. There's also not a lot to it. And the little bit of combat there is kind of old school survival horror when it comes to preserving ammo. So like that should be set up front. I should have said that at the beginning. I've talked to some people who think this is a first person shooter. It is not a first person shooter. There's barely any first person shooting in the game, but that is not a bad thing by any means because this is an experience. There are so many like jaw dropping environments. Crazy moments where you solve a puzzle and it leads to something grotesque or odd. And just the way the game kind of makes you feel like you're in this world where everything you have to interact with, whether it's opening a door or loading your gun, is gooey and icky and stretchy. And the way the sound design works with that, the visual design works with that. That was actually like one of the cool appeals of the game was, like I said, just kind of figuring out all this stuff and learning about this world. It's kind of like you're in a couple of areas that they change as you go. And a lot of them are really maze-like. It's very easy to get lost and kind of screwed up. You can even lose track of like what you were even, like what was I doing? I grabbed this thing to open this, but where is it? Like it's very dense. It can be very confusing. But I grew to like that because there's not a lot of games like that right now. Like it actually feels a little fresh in how it's a little old school and simple. And visually and just looking at everything, it is one of those games, I've said this before, but like those games you want to walk slow in. You want to slowly walk through places and look around just because it's so gorgeous. Or in this case, the opposite of gorgeous. I mean, it is beautiful, you know what I mean? But it's odd. It's really straight up unlike anything we've seen in a game before, this type of look. So I definitely want to celebrate it for that. I would love to see more games like this, and especially with how it ended, and I wanted more, I would really love to see them do a follow-up to this or expand on it, because what they set up with this world and like the things I tried to piece together, it seems like there could be a lot more of it. But the story itself, or whatever this really is, this brief adventure with this crusty man, is super abstract and very, very up to interpretation. And I think that can be a lot of fun. And again, it comes back to if you're the specific type of person to be into this type of thing. And again, that goes back to what I keep saying, if you're a specific type of person, where some people might go, well, that's it? Well, that was dumb. You know, that's fine. That can be valid. But I think you can also read into a lot of things that this game does. The way certain puzzles change the world, the things that happens to the player character itself, its body, the things around it, just things that happen in the environment. Like all of that can kind of piece together a little bit of a story or a message, kind of like a statement on something. There are like 2 ways-ish I feel like this maybe goes in terms of what it represents, but I think it's pretty up to interpretation. You know, these types of styles, this type of art can really symbolize a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And if you can't tell, like I'm definitely trying to talk around it without spoiling anything, but it's not really a spoiler. It would just be my interpretation of the game. So maybe I'll expand on that at some point. But, you know, themes of pain, loss, separation, giving things up, life, death, creation, like there's a lot of stuff going on in there, and I think it's fun for you to play it and kind of extrapolate your own thing. It is definitely a game made by a smaller team. It is, you know, I encountered a couple of bugs, like I said, some frustrating checkpoints and some underwhelming combat, and like I said, really, really painfully short. So the thing I keep repeating here is that I do think there is stuff worth experiencing in this game. It just depends on your tolerance level for, you know, shortcomings of a game. If you absolutely love this style of art, the various artists that this team pulled from for inspiration and made their own thing out of it. If you're into that type of thing, I still encourage you to keep it on your radar. It is a strange product, not even just from how it looks, but just what they cobbled together here as a video game. But even if some parts of it made me feel kind of unfulfilled, I ultimately kind of walked away from the game still thinking about it. And, you know, if you play a lot of games, you download a lot of games, it's even the same thing if you watch a lot of movies or shows and stuff. You'll like something and move on and never think about it again. But Scorn, even with its issues, I'm still going to be thinking about. And I think that's significant. It also just reminded me how much I do like this stuff. This is the first time I've actually been able to talk a little bit about art in a video and maybe not come off like super pretentious or anything, but like I loved art history. I took a ton of art history classes in college and stuff. And this game made me like go down a rabbit hole and pull out some old textbooks and stuff. And I think that's worth something. Scorn may not be for you, whether it's the time spent in game versus price for your wallet or just your preference of type of game or puzzles or anything. If it's not for you, that's fine. Don't leave a hate comment here. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. I think this game is going to find its people. Like they made this game for certain types of folks, and I think they succeeded on that front. And like I said before, I really, really want to see what else I got up their sleeve because this game left me wanting more. But I think ultimately, now that I've talked it through here, in a good way. This review, although I did get early access to the game, it is going up now that the game is out. So if you are jumping into it, let me know what you're thinking so far. Are you stuck on a puzzle? Good luck. Maybe it was just me. Maybe I'm dumb. I don't know. But let me know what you think about Scorn. If you're watching more reviews and you're mad or you're happy, let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know your experience with these styles of art. Anything really at all with a game like this, a vibe like this. Let's talk. Definitely keep your eyes peeled on Game Ranks, the other YouTube channel I put videos out on, because I'll be doing a before you buy video over there, going a little bit more in depth on some things. Here, I just kind of talk gut feeling, you know, and talk more about the stuff I love with the game. So yeah, if you like what I'm doing here, clicking the like button helps. Subscribing also helps. I don't spam you with videos. I only put one out like a week or so. So thanks for watching. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.